Imagine this scenario. It's 11:47 at night on a Tuesday in late October, and you're parked behind a Walmart just outside Flagstaff, Arizona. The temperature outside is 38 degrees. Your laptop is at 14% because you're rationing power until morning. You've been on the road for 9 months. And 6 hours ago, your alternator started making a noise that you've been pretending not to hear for 2 weeks. Tomorrow you're going to find out it costs $780 to fix, and the only shop in town can take you on Thursday. Which means you also need a motel for 2 nights because you can't sleep in a van with no charging system in 38-degree weather. Here's a question almost nobody asks before they sell everything. Why does van life cost $350 a month for one person and $400 a month for another? Same kind of vehicle, same lifestyle, same hours behind the wheel. One budget makes this look like the smartest financial move of your life. The other one looks like a slow leak in your savings account. Both budgets are floating around online right now, written by real people, and technically both numbers are correct. The difference between them isn't lifestyle. It isn't even location. It's 11 specific costs that one person counted and the other person didn't. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those 11 costs are, what the honest range looks like, and the one cost at the end that doesn't show up anywhere in any spreadsheet because it doesn't even appear until month 9. Here's the number that should frame the whole conversation. The median van lifer transitions out of the lifestyle at around 14 months, not because the dream failed them, because the math did. Or more accurately, because the math they were sold bore no resemblance to the math that actually showed up. Cost number 1, the $350 a month budget that lives on the internet. You've seen it. $100 for insurance, $150 for gas, $50 for your phone plan, $25 for a gym membership that conveniently has showers. Clean, simple, convincing, and almost completely fictional. Not because anyone is lying on purpose, but because that budget describes a version of van life where nothing ever goes wrong. Not one dead battery, not one parking lot that kicks you out at 2 a.m, not one Tuesday that costs you more than planned. Here's the thing, that budget assumes 12 straight months of 0 mechanical problems, 0 unexpected fees, and a body that doesn't need any medical attention. It assumes the van just works forever without complaint. The real van lifers, the ones still doing this at year 3, will tell you the honest range is $100 to $400 a month once everything gets counted. That number is still cheaper than renting in most American cities. The case for van life still holds. But it's a very different conversation than the one with $350 in the thumbnail. The gap between those two budgets is exactly where people run out of money. And that gap starts opening before you ever turn the key. Cost number 2, the price of admission. A used cargo van that runs reliably will cost you 8 $10 to 15 $10. The conversion, meaning insulation, a bed platform, ventilation, and basic electrical, adds another 3 $10 to 8 $10 if you do it yourself and don't make any expensive mistakes. Most first-timers make at least 2. Then there's everything the Build Tour videos never mention. A pre-purchase inspection runs $150 to $200, and skipping it is not a smart way to save money. Registration, title transfer, and any emissions work runs $500 to $200 depending on the state. And then the real surprise, used vans almost always need immediate mechanical attention, so budget another $500 to $200 $10 before your first night sleeping in it. Add all of that up and you're looking at $12 to $26 all in, not $8. $8 is just the metal box. The rest is the cost of turning that metal box into something a human being can actually live inside. At the high end of that range, you're looking at a 2 to 3 year break-even point compared to paying rent. The math still works, but only if nothing major breaks in year 1. Something always breaks in year 1. Cost number 3, the food trap. Here's something that doesn't make it into a single budget video. Without a real kitchen, you start eating like a teenager who just got handed a credit card. There's no refrigerator, so you can't buy groceries for the week. There's no oven, so meal prep is a hassle. There's no leftover system because where would leftovers go? So at 7 p.m., parked somewhere, tired from driving, you do what anyone would do. You hit a drive-thru, and then you do it again the next night, and the night after that. The physics of this is just behavioral economics. Friction always wins. When cooking takes more steps than ordering, you order. One van lifer posted the honest math publicly. $600 in 1 month at fast food chains because they didn't have a fridge or a microwave. That number isn't unusual, that's typical. The solution is upfront capital. A 12-volt refrigerator runs $250 to $400. A decent portable power station to run it costs $400 to $900. A small induction cooktop or a single burner propane stove is $30 to $80. Total damage $700 to $1, $400 added to your setup cost. But here's the proof that makes it worth it. Cooking basic meals in a van runs $250 to $350 a month for one person. Eating out for every meal runs $500 to $800. That fridge pays for itself in 3 months. The drive-thru economy pays for itself never. Cost number 4. The storage unit you didn't think you'd need. Almost nobody who moves into a van actually moves all their stuff into a van. The reality is you keep a chunk of it somewhere else. Tools, winter gear, family photos, the bike, the snowboard, the box of paperwork you can't legally throw out for 7 years. That somewhere else is a storage unit. The honest range is $50 to $250 a month, depending on the city and the size, and most full-time van lifers run somewhere around $150 to $350 a month if they kept any meaningful amount of stuff. That's $800 to $400, $200 a year, and it shows up exactly nowhere in the dream budget. Here's the pro tip. Before you sign a 12-month storage contract, do the ruthless inventory. If you haven't touched something in 2 years, it's not really yours anymore. It's just paying rent in a metal box on your behalf. Cost number 5. The electrical mistake that is also a fire hazard. This one matters because it costs real money, and it's also a safety issue. A lot of new van builders try to save money by wiring their portable power station directly into the van's alternator so it charges automatically while driving. Sounds clever. Stop. That setup forces your alternator to push current it was never designed to push, runs heat through wiring that may or may not be rated for it, and creates exactly the conditions for an electrical fire inside a vehicle made mostly of foam, plywood, and your bedding. The physics is straightforward. Alternators have an amperage ceiling, and exceeding it consistently shortens their life or melts insulation. The smarter approach is to keep your power station independent. Charge it from the wall when you have shore power, or from a folding solar panel on the roof or windshield, or from a 12-volt cigarette lighter port at a low controlled rate. The honest cost of doing this right is $400 to $1, $200 for the power station, plus $200 to $600 for solar. That's not the cheap option. But the cheap option is what burns down your house and your transportation in the same afternoon. Cost number 6, the Tuesday breakdown. Mechanical costs don't show up on a schedule. They show up on a Tuesday afternoon in a town you don't know, 3 hours before you need it to be somewhere. A van that doubles as a house gets used very differently from a van that just commutes. You're sleeping in it, so the electrical system runs all night. You're loading it with everything you own, so the suspension is working harder than it was designed to. You're driving it through altitude changes and temperature swings the manufacturer never planned for as a daily routine. Here's what that actually costs per year. Brake service, $300 to $600. Tires, $600 to $1. ASIO every 2 to 3 years. Oil changes at the interval mobile life demands, $600 to $900 a year. And then the wild card. Budget $800 to $200, $500 for at least one unexpected mechanical event per year if you're moving regularly. When the water pump fails inside a converted van, you don't just call a plumber. You pull apart the bed platform to reach the system, fix the pump, rebuild the bed, lose 2 days you didn't plan to lose. Total honest mechanical cost runs $200 to $500 a year. Here's the pro tip that cuts that number roughly in half. Learn to do basic work yourself. Brakes, belts, fluids, simple electrical. A 40-service manual and an afternoon of YouTube videos saves you more money than any other single hack in van life. Cost number 7, the roadside emergency tax. This is the cost the breakdown number doesn't capture, because when a van breaks down on a deserted highway, you don't just pay for the repair. You pay for the tow, the lodging, while the part gets shipped, the rideshare to and from the shop, and the meals you can't cook because your house is currently in pieces in someone else's garage. A roadside assistance plan with high mileage towing runs $100 to $200 a year. Skip it, and the average flatbed tow on a stranded vehicle is $4 to $7 per mile beyond the first few free miles, and those bills can land in the high hundreds easily. Then add the motel for 2 to 4 nights at $90 to $140 a night in a small town, plus rideshare fees in a town that may or may not have functional rideshare coverage. The honest number for one stranded incident is 400 to 1, 200 on top of the repair itself. Most full-time travelers will hit one of these incidents at least once a year. Pro tip: a roadside plan with at least 100 miles of free towing is one of the highest leverage 150 you'll spend. Cost number 8, the campsite chess game. Here's what the highlight reel shows you: a camp chair, a thermos, trees in the background, golden morning light. Total cost $0. Here's what the video edits out. That spot took 3 hours of research the night before. It's on Bureau of Land Management land out west, which is where most of the free camping in this country actually lives. Cross the Rockies heading east, and the options thin out. Hit any major city, and free overnight parking becomes a nightly chess match against rules that change by neighborhood. The realistic campsite math for anyone moving regularly is 2 to 3 nights a week at a paid site averaging $25 to $45 a night. Sometimes you need reliable electricity. Sometimes you need a real shower that isn't a gym locker room 2 states away. Sometimes you just need one night where you're not doing mental math at 2 a.m. about whether this parking lot is going to be a problem. That's $200 to $540 a month in campsite fees during active travel. Walmart lots and casino parking lots bring that number down, but they come with their own tax, and that tax is sleep quality. Pro tip: state parks generally run $20 to $30 a night and almost always include hot showers and clean bathrooms. That's a better deal than commercial RV parks, and a much better deal than gambling on a random parking lot. Cost number 9, the healthcare cliff. Nobody budgets for healthcare correctly, and it's not because people are careless, it's because the math is genuinely strange. Most months it costs almost nothing. Once every few years it costs everything. Without employer-sponsored insurance, van lifers end up in one of 3 places. Marketplace plans through the Affordable Care Act run $200 to $500 a month for a single adult after any subsidies, with provider networks that may or may not cover you wherever you happen to be that week. Health share ministries run $150 to $300 a month, but they come with significant coverage gaps and almost no regulatory protection. Uninsured costs $0 a month, right up until the moment something goes wrong. The average emergency room visit in the United States runs 500 to 3 sedation before treatment, and a single hospitalization can run into 5 figures fast. The people still doing this at year 3 almost all have a separate fund, 10, hers into 20, hers sitting in an account, untouched, waiting for one bad Tuesday. Cost number 10, the fictional address. You need a permanent address to exist in this country. Driver's license, vehicle registration, bank account, tax return, health insurance, all of it requires a state of domicile. Mail forwarding services through Texas, South Dakota, or Florida solve part of this problem for $100 to $250 a year. Those 3 states are the most common because they have no state income tax and relatively simple residency requirements. That fee isn't the expensive part. The expensive part is what happens when things stop lining up. Your registration says you live in South Dakota, but you haven't been there in 7 months. Your health insurance covers a network 400 miles from where you actually are. You need to see a doctor, and the system requires proof of a permanent address. So you drive back to your mom's house, use her address, lose 2 days, drive back. Or you spend 3 hours on the phone trying to explain a living situation that has no checkbox in the system. Set it up right from the start. $100 to $250 a year. Ignore it, and the cost shows up later as a tax problem you weren't expecting. Cost number 11, the patient's tax. This is the cost that doesn't have a line item, and it's the cost that ends most van life journeys. In an apartment, you don't have to think about basic logistics. Where do I sleep? Here. Where do I shower? Down the hall. Where do I park? My spot. In a van, every single one of those is a problem you solve from scratch every day. After 8 months of solving the same problems every day, most people hit a wall, not a money wall, an energy wall. The chores that were just mildly annoying in a house, taking out trash, doing dishes, getting laundry done, each now requires a plan. The freedom that looked like an open road starts to feel from the inside like a different kind of trap. Here's the exit cost almost nobody factors in. Refurnishing a bare apartment from scratch, since you sold everything before you left, runs $500 to $700. Bed, couch, table, kitchen basics, all of it again. That number doesn't have a line in any budget, but it's the closing chapter of about half the van life stories that started with confidence and a YouTube playlist. There's a related point that experienced van dwellers will quietly tell you. If you're bad with money to begin with, van life will not fix that. The money you save on rent finds new places to go. The same person who couldn't budget in an apartment cannot budget in a van. The vehicle isn't the problem. The relationship with money is the problem. Here's how to run the real math before you commit. Open your bank statement right now. Add every dollar that went to rent, utilities, renter's insurance, and parking over the last 12 months. Write that number down. That's what you're agreeing to pay again next year. Then build the van life budget using the honest ranges in this video. Use the high end of every category, not the low end. Put both numbers side by side. If the gap is less than $300 a month, your margin is too thin to survive even one bad mechanical event without it becoming a crisis. Next, go to healthcare.gov and price out coverage for your actual income level before you sell anything. This single number changes the calculation more than any other variable. Finally, calculate your real break-even. Take the all-in cost to buy and convert the van. Divide it by your real monthly savings compared to what you spend on housing now. That's how many months until the van pays for itself. If the answer is more than 36 months, make sure you actually want to do this for 3 years before the math turns positive. You now know the 11 costs that separate the 350 budget from the 401. You know the dream is real. You know the budget on the thumbnail is not. You know why most people quit at 14 months, and you know it almost never has anything to do with the road. The honest math is still worth running. For a lot of people, the honest math still beats paying rent in this country. Just make sure you're running the right math. Run your numbers, then run them again, then decide.